We got a quarterback change in Atlanta. Taylor Heinicke will start this Sunday, so I'm going to give you guys all the news and my analysis on the move in just a moment. But really quickly, self-plug here, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 16,000 subscribers, so if you want to add a Falcons YouTube channel to your news and rumors rotation, consider subscribing today. Well, there it is. We all sort of knew it was going to happen at some point over the last few weeks, but Arthur Smith announced today that Taylor Heinicke will be starting on Sunday against the Minnesota Vikings, and Desmond Ridder will be the backup. Now, Arthur Smith had a very bizarre, I'll say, a unique way of going about announcing the change at the quarterback position. We'll look at his words in just a few moments here, but team reporter Tori McElhaney tweeted out that Arthur Smith said the decision to go with Taylor Heinicke is one they made in the short term, specifically for Minnesota. Almost as if Taylor Heinicke is better suited for the Vikings defense. I mean, this is not a fantasy football lineup. You don't just change the quarterback because you think, oh, Taylor Heinicke, he's going to look a lot better against those Vikings DBs. Like, that's not a thing in the NFL. So that was kind of a strange thing to add into the change, but that really wasn't it. He also added Desmond Ridder will be the number 2 QB. But here's what Arthur Smith had to say on starting Taylor Heinicke. Just for this week, with all the variables and doing what is best for this week, Taylor will play this week. There are a lot of variables, just kind of where we are at right now, getting ready to play the Vikings. Really, our focus is short term and what gives us the best chance. This is not some grand statement for forever. This is not the SEC. Pick a starter. Like, I don't understand what he's talking about for just this week. Is Taylor Heinicke going to have the job waiting for him the week after? I understand that when you make a midseason quarterback change, things can be a little bit fluid. But I think for Arthur Smith, he's kind of leaving himself a quick exit, right? Where if Taylor Heinicke does not play, he can easily revert back to Desmond Ridder and say, well, that was sort of the plan. We just wanted to give Taylor Heinicke a look this week only against the Minnesota Vikings. But ultimately, this is the National Football League. Like, I know not everyone is Team Arthur Smith, and people don't like him, and some people don't want him here. Of course, when you're losing and you're 4-4 in the season, things aren't going to be all roses. But I have been a bigger supporter for Arthur Smith than maybe your average Falcons fan. But even I can say this is a little bit Bush League. Like, let's make a decision, and let's stand by the decision. I think that's what Arthur Smith is trying to avoid here. He does not want to come out and send a clear message, Taylor Heinicke is our starting quarterback, right? He sort of rode the coattails and hid behind, well, Desmond Ridder was in concussion protocol, so we wanted to do what's best for him and not, be too aggressive and be cautious with it. Okay, but Ridder cleared concussion protocol. He's not hurt. I mean, it would be one thing if Desmond Ridder was not playing this week. He'll have a ball cap on. He'll be on the sideline. He's available as the backup. So just say Taylor Heinicke is our starting quarterback moving forward. And if Taylor Heinicke doesn't work out, okay, you can go back and change. But don't try and be Switzerland here and have one foot in the Heinicke pool for just this week, but another foot in the Ridder pool saying, we're not doing anything long term. Pick one and move forward with it. Now, Taylor Heinicke is the starting quarterback for this Sunday. So let's get you guys familiar with what I dub as the new Ryan Fitzpatrick of the NFL. Great if he's coming in midseason. Not so sure if he's the guy if you want to start him week 1. But he's had a lot of great moments. I mean, remember, Heinicke was the Commanders quarterback in that playoff game who played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in their Super Bowl run, by far the closest. Heinicke did better against Tampa's defense than Aaron Rodgers did or Patrick Mahomes. So there is some splash to Heinicke. He's got that Ryan Fitz magic in him, right? Where you can get a couple of great starts and games out of him and everyone can rally around. I just don't think he is a long-term solution for any team at the quarterback position. But this should come as no real surprise in terms of Atlanta making a switch at quarterback. Desmond Ridder has the league-leading 13 turnovers to his name. It's just hard to stick around in the NFL when you turn it over that much, let alone holding on to a starting quarterback position. So I'm not blown away by this decision. You should not be blown away. Of course, anytime a quarterback change is made, it definitely pops up on the headlines and whatnot. But ultimately, this was a move that I think we all sort of saw coming at some point. I remember when they signed Taylor Heinicke to a good contract in the offseason, it was kind of a question of, all right, so clearly they have some level of interest in him. At what point will they kind of yank Ridder's leash back and turn to their relatively expensive backup quarterback as far as backup quarterback price tags go? Now, I've got more takes and analysis to fire off in just a second, but support for today's show comes in from our friend over at Prize Picks. Thanks to Prize Picks, I've had the most fun watching football and winning up to 25 times my money this season. And now I can also play during basketball season as well. All you do is just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. You can play this week with me. I'm rolling with Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts more than half a touchdown combined. I also like the less on Baker Mayfield. He had his moment. Nice start to the year, but Baker's come back down, crashing to earth. I like the less on 224.5 passing yards. And give me the less on Odell Beckham Jr., 32.5 receiving yards. The guy was having a temper tantrum on the sideline last week as his team was routing the Arizona Cardinals. I like the less on those last 2. So we all know there can be some absolute stinkers of primetime matchups. Wink, wink, anything with the Jets, the Raiders, or the Bears right now. But with Prize Picks, you can stay locked in on the game. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. The link for that, by the way, is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. So when it comes to the decision to move on from Desmond Ridder, for just this week, though, just this week, maybe longer, but maybe not. You turn it over 13 times in 8 weeks, Desmond. That's just not startable, right? And I came into the season as a fairly big, not Desmond Ridder believer. And then I wouldn't say I completely went 180, but I did see a lot of great moments from Desmond Ridder. You don't average 295.5 passing yards 3 straight weeks without having some good qualities to you, right? It's hard to have dumb luck once in the NFL. We're oh, you popped off for 300 yards. Lucky day for you, I guess. That's not really a thing. So to have that happen not once, but twice, but 3 times where you average 295.5 or 295 passing yards going into the Tennessee game, there's clearly something working there. But ultimately, if you walk on the field and just hand the football to the defense 13 times in 8 games, you're not going to be the starter for very long. But I want to know, do you agree with the quarterback change? Yes or no? Did Arthur Smith make the right decision going to Taylor Heinicke for Week 9 against the Vikings? Or should he have stuck by Desmond Ridder and hoped that he could figure out the turnover problem over a long period of time? We got some other news to get to today. The Falcons also made a roster addition. Travis Bell might be a bit of a familiar name for some of you down in the Peach State right now. Added to the Falcons' 53-man roster off of the Bears practice squad. The defensive tackle was a 2023 7th-round pick by Chicago out of Kennesaw State. So a local guy. I believe he was the first Kennesaw State player ever drafted, or one of the very few drafted. Now, unfortunately, the move was made because Atlanta is razor thin at defensive tackle. Grady Jarrett placed on injured reserve with a season-ending ACL injury. And LaCal London, who filled in for Grady Jarrett, was also placed on IR, although Arthur Smith is somewhat optimistic that they might be able to get London back at some point later on in the year. So for now, I think you have Calais Campbell, David Onyemata, and I think, but I'm not too sure, maybe Kentavious Street, the guy they just acquired from Philadelphia in a trade, might be the next starting defensive lineman for the Falcons. He was traded from Philly to Atlanta for a day 3 pick swap, a former 4th-round pick by the 49ers back in 2018. Did not have much of a role in the city of brotherly love this season, only played 17% of defensive snaps. They've got Jalen Carter. They've got a lot of young guys over there in Philadelphia that they want to get on the field. So Street, kind of getting towards that veteran portion of his career, was sitting on the bench for a large part of the year. Now, he's had a lot of good moments in his NFL career. 6.5 career sacks, 13 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble. So He definitely knows how to get to the quarterback, and he's had some great times and great starts when he was with the 49ers specifically, but now he'll have an opportunity to get a lot more playing time in Atlanta compared to what he was doing in Philly. I also want to wrap up the show by talking about this Sunday's matchup because not only are the Falcons trotting out a new starting quarterback this week, so are the Minnesota Vikings. They are going to turn from their starting quarterback, Kirk Cousins, who unfortunately suffered a season ending Achilles injury, to a rookie in Jaren Hall, I think, because they just traded for Josh Dobbs yesterday. Although adding a quarterback mid-season is very rare to begin with. Having that guy start after you traded for him on Tuesday with a game on Sunday is almost unheard of. So I don't think we're going to see Josh Dobbs start against against the Falcons this Sunday. I do think that Minnesota just wanted to add a bit of an insurance policy in case this man does not really work out very well. Jaren Hall, the rookie out of BYU, some people dubbed him as like Patrick Mahomes light. That's just unfair to Patrick Mahomes. Like, no one is Patrick Mahomes light. But he does have a lot of spontaneity and big playmaking ability to his name, but he's not very accurate, and he's not very smart with the football and his decisions, but he's not afraid to try and, spin around 100 times in the backfield and just let it loose like Mahomes often does. So, who you got in this game to kind of wrap up the show? Vikings or Falcons? Type ATL, for the Atlanta Falcons, or MIN for the Minnesota Vikings. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to come hang out with us here at Falcons Today. We're going to sign off, and we'll see you all later.